How are you today?
I'm good.
You're good.
Yeah. It's
Wonderful.
Friday.
It's Friday. It is Friday.
Love a weekend. Got a gig tonight.
Okay.
Covers gig. First covers gig in about a decade.
Yeah.
Put a band together for that. So
True. Was it for a birthday party or like an event? Or
it's just an event out in Bralaba. It's just a one-off thing, but
okay.
because of the study, like we were saying, I'm trying to put all that into practice. So getting back into playing covers is like
Cool.
paid practice.
Cool. Okay, because you have to learn all these parts, like all the little technical.
Yeah, I want to be a little more than just a rhythm guitarist, and I've been stuck in that little safe zone for a 15-year period now. It's like, okay, well, it's funny how you wait till you turn 40 and you've got two little kids and more on your plate than ever, and you go, yeah, let's do a degree as well. Good one.
It is funny, hey. You got to be just in the right mindset for it. You could have started this years ago and dropped out, or
well, circumstances are now fitting too. You know, when years ago, financial situations and where we were living and just opportunity wasn't there. So it just feels like since moving to Rocky, meeting Katie, it's just like when you're on the right path, things work, and then you get motivated and you get inspired. And here we are.
I really want to hear a bit more about your story because it's a very cool story. And so do you mind telling us, where you grew up and how you got into music? And we'll get to what you've got going on now, which is awesome. But tell us a bit about you and your story.
Well, right back to the beginning. Mum and Dad were living in Dysart, a little coal mining town in Central Queensland. And Dad was the milkman out there. And was my older brother and my younger sister. And Mum has, and that's her story, I won't dig into her story completely, but Mum's upbringing had some bumps in the road, some great in the long run, but at the time was tough for her. So she put herself on the back burner, her career, and had kids. Got married when she was 21 and had 3 kids. So they were living in Dysart at that time. Mum was 28 years old when she decided, hey, I want to go to uni and study social work. And she was already working in a social work position in Dysart while Dad was delivering milk. It was the days when you would deliver milk to the doorsteps and take money and give change. And it was great. I loved that because we used to travel around on the back of the milk truck too as kids. And we went to school straight across the road from there at Dysart Primary School, the state school. And we jumped the fence and come home every day and pinch milk out of Dad's fridge for lunch.
Awesome.
So Mum decided to go and study. So we moved from Dysart to Townsville, and that would have been in 1991 or 1990, and I went to a primary school, Holy Spirit Catholic school in Townsville for a few years, and I started playing rugby league in Dysart, but I was a mad sportsman growing up. But the reason for the move was so Mum could start studying, and I mentioned that because of that being sort of where I am now later in life, going back to school, and Mum was a real big influence, and Dad, but Mum in particular in this way was a big influence on me because she also played piano growing up. There was always a family piano in the house, and I'd tinker on that and listen to what she'd play and then go out there afterwards and jump on it and try and go, oh yeah. I could sort of by ear work out where she was playing and then figure out these songs. And I remember being about 9 or 10 and she'd come into the room and go, how did you learn that? And I'd say, you played it. I could hear it. I don't know. Some people have got that, they can hear the music, and I could just remember the pitch and go, oh yeah, there it is. And so I've always had that drawing to music, that calling, I guess, to music, but it wasn't until years later that my mid-20s when I really got stuck into it. To Townsville, primary school, Mum was studying, Dad bought into some businesses. Dad doesn't have any higher education or anything like that. He left school in grade 10, I think, and he's always just worked with his hands. Never done a trade, never had any upskilling like that, but Dad was always willing to give it a crack and a hard worker. So he had these garden waste businesses, those bags you see in the backyards. He bought this great big, it was orange truck. I remember it. It was an absolute piece of garbage. Ironically. It was just always breaking down, all these hydraulic things that would always break. And it was just, I remember Townsville being a stressful time for my parents. I remember you could just feel it. And years later, chatting to them, they spoke about it, and it was that financially we're struggling. Mum wasn't working, or she was working part time. I remember she bought this old orange car, and it was just, I think she paid $500 for it, and it was just tough times. But through those years, everyone learned about resilience and hard work and goal setting and all that stuff. And Mum, from that position, went on to be like a state manager in social work, working for the government for 30 years. She's now a doctor of social work. She's done multiple degrees, a doctorate, obviously. She's just a real go-getter. And later in life, I realised why she did all that. It's because I have a half brother who's 10 years older than me, who was put up for adoption when Mum was 15. And that set her on a path, and gave her the drive to help other kids in a certain situation, which I didn't realise till I was in my mid-20s as to why. But from that, so that was kind of like where we began. Music was just giving us here's a touch of music, and I focused on rugby league. I loved sport. And that's why I'm still a tragic Broncos supporter. You'll often see my rants on social media on the weekends, whether they play well or not. And as I got older, I was in my mid-20s. I had a hand-me-down guitar from Mum as well. When I was about 12, I got that. So I can just remember sticking my ear to the speakers of, whatever was playing at home and learning the intros to like Chili Peppers songs and James Taylor songs and just doing it all by ear. And it was all wrong. I now know it was wrong, but at the time it was great. It was a good education on how to play it and where to put your fingers. And I started playing gigs when I was in my early 20s with a couple of guys, Scott and Dean Raybine. We had a band called PJ Ray. My nickname's Punjab, so that was PJ. And their last name's Raybine. So then those guys were raised on 60s and 70s rock and roll music. Their parents are mad Elvis, Beatles fans, the great music of that era. So they brought that in. I brought my surfer, singer-songwriter stuff that I loved. And it was what Mum was listening to as well. It was Cat Stevens, James Taylor. When I hit my teens, it was Jack Johnson, Ben Harper. Then there was the country element. Garth Brooks was always getting played. Dad was a mad Alan Jackson fan. So I had all these different elements coming in. And then when Scotty and Dean got together with us, okay, right over, so we're going to do some Beatles songs and some Elvis tunes and just the stuff that I'd never even listened to. It was so cool. And I caught the bug, from that. So early 20s, I started really writing songs. And now I'm 40 years old and I've got about to release my 6th album. And, halfway through a Bachelor of Music degree and young family, living here in Rocky. Life's good.
Living the dream.
That was a long story.
It's good. And you skipped over heaps.
I did,
yeah. I think we like to think that we're going to be early 20-somethings and become a hotshot musician and your career takes off. And like, is that what you had dreams and aspirations for? Or did you just like play music because you loved it?
I wanted to be a football player. I wanted to be the next Wally Lewis. Seriously, I was chip kicking in the backyard every day. I played 20-something years of rugby league. I captained every team I was in up until I was 17. And a guy named Grant Ravelli and Brett Seymour, who was a year younger than us, came through and took my spot, and they both went on to play in the NRL, the buggers. So there's some good footballers in that area. Oh no, I never left town, okay. But it was nice to be in those positions with those guys who had real talent and they went off. But yeah, I loved rugby league, and music was just a thing we did for fun. Especially when I turned 18 and got a bit older, it was just something to do with your mates, having a few beers, having a laugh, sing a song. Gee, that was good. Do another one. I'd say, oh, that's all I know, And I'd know the intros and outros of 20 songs, and that was all it was until that covers band PJ Ray started, and then was like, okay, let's start learning the entire song, and we put together, 30 or 40 songs, and we played them 4 hours a night for the next 4 years. PJ Ray released an EP with 6 or 7 songs on it, which we wrote ourselves, and that's where the bug got in me. So no, I never grew up with these aspirations of being a musician. It was playing footy and music. I found my love for it in my 20s.
Is that album still out there? Like, have you?
It is somewhere. In Mackay, you could probably find the odd case sitting around with a bit of dust on it.
You're not going to re-release it on Spotify or something?
No.
Better as a memory.
Very much so. I'm proud of it, but I remember there was some things like, bless her heart, but Scotty and Dean's mum was our graphic designer on that, and she took a photo of us. I remember we were all sitting in a tree, you know, it was just what you did. And she thought that my hair, because my hair's been gone for a while, and she thought I didn't have enough hair, so she put this fringe on me, like a fake fringe in the photo, and I was like, what the hell? I'll never forget that. But, you know, they're very good people. Love those guys. But I just remember that going, don't think you needed to do that.
She added it after the fact.
Yeah. Photoshopped it on there. Gave me a fringe.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We have to, I want to see that.
Yeah.
A front mullet.
A frullet, yeah.
A frullet.
But, yeah, so that was kind of the beginning of the songwriting. And then I literally wrote 10 songs of my own after that, and went down to Byron Bay, met a guy named Anthony Lysenko, who's now passed away, sadly. And he and I and Ben McCarthy recorded my first album. And it was beyond that then. This is how green I was going into it there. I didn't even realize that you probably should have written 300 songs and then picked your best 10. I just wrote 10 songs. And I guess I'm lucky that there was one or two in there that weren't half bad. And there's still people today who say that's my best album, but I don't know. I think that's got a bit of nostalgia tied to it as well.
That is so cool.
Mm.
There's so many places I want to go. Quickly to touch on that, what do you think about the evolution of music as you've found it in your life too? You hear people say, I prefer such and such as old stuff. You know, they're talking about their favorite music artist. I've always been fascinated as how in the evolution of creators, like musicians, and how if you write a hit, you're not going to set out to do that again. Like often people stray away from like they don't want to just. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like manufacturing the old stuff because people liked it is kind of will probably make it flop, but then you're changing. You're always growing and changing as a musician, and so how does that innovation? You know, again, some people are going to draw a line in the sand and say, "Oh no, all their new stuff's rubbish," but I like the old. But it's like that was you in a season, and it's an expression of you.
No artist is ever not going to evolve. That's the thing. Everybody, they're all learning. Everyone's pinching things and hearing things, and especially if they're really into it, then they're looking everywhere. They're listening. They're just absorbing everything. So it's impossible for an artist not to evolve in some way. So when people say, "Oh, I prefer their old stuff," it's like, yeah, that's great, and that's the other issue I have with music is the whole thing is based on perception. How people perceive you, whether they like you or not. Is one guy going, "No, I don't like that." It could be the greatest thing ever released, but that one music journalist or whoever wasn't their cup of tea. Then all of a sudden, if they're respected, and people read that article and go, "Well, I'm not listening to that. It must be crap." And that's the problem I have with genres. That's the problem I have with radio right now. There is so little window of opportunity that there used to be for creativity anymore. It's been completely, everything has been shaved, stripped down and shaped that if you're not willing to be a certain sound, if you're not willing to dress a certain way, if you're not willing to do exactly what radio wants you to do, look like, feel, sound, hear, whatever, then they're not going to play you.
Add TikTok to that.
TikTok, it's social media, the whole thing.
Where people are writing songs literally to be sounds on TikTok to then try and become a hit out of that.
So then the creativity is what's lost. The artistic nature of this whole thing is gone because it's like, oh no, you just need to put that sound over that beat and speak about this topic. Because I don't want to speak ill of any genre or any the way artists do it, because you've got to give respect to those who are succeeding. It's not a jealousy thing, but when you look at certain mainstream radio stations, and if you don't have that drum sound and that click and that thing, and they're not going to play you, it's like, oh no. Imagine if James Taylor came out today and wrote an album. No one knew who James Taylor was, and he released his first album like he did back in the 70s or 60s, it might have been. Today they'd be like, oh no way, no. They'd overlook the fact that he's a phenomenal guitarist. I think they'd overlook the fact that he's a phenomenal guitarist, writing in a very unique way, and they'd overlook that based on the fact that it doesn't suit the sound of the station, or it doesn't suit the sound of what they know sells today, because the business has shaped it all down. Here's the avenue for success. You know, I just feel like artistry doesn't exist anymore. Creativity is squashed, and the music that is being played. This sounds really negative, doesn't it? Wow. But I think the music being played today is a shadow of what it should be.
Is it because people are writing what they think people want to hear?
It's a formula. Yeah, the formula. Everything's been shaped. That's what I'm saying. So if and good on the people that are willing to do that, but I have a really hard time sleeping at night doing that, because I think I like to write in a way that the song comes out of you. It's not you sitting down and going, okay, now here's the topic and here's what we're doing. So no, I start playing and I start feeling it, and there's a thing that happens when you play those chords, and there's a melody that just falls out. Then there's a line and you go, oh, that's interesting. Where's this leading me? And they keep coming and they keep coming. And all of a sudden you've got this picture down there and it's kind of vague, but you go, oh, well, that sort of means that and that means that. Okay, let's fill in these blanks. Now we've got a story. And I think when you attack a song that way, well, I shouldn't say attack, when you come at a song from that angle, you can find the most creative ways to say things, because you're not thinking logically. It's just happening. And I've read a lot of books from a lot of the greatest songwriters on the planet, I believe, and they all say the same thing. And when I read that, I was like, holy dooly, they do it the same way that I kind of do it. So I went, right, that's the way I'm going. And it just feels like a lot of the stuff that we hear today, not all of it, mind you, there's a lot of great music out there, don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying that the stuff that's played on mainstream radio isn't great, but there's a formula to creating that.
Is it like the other broader negative outcomes of social media, where it's like every idiot has a microphone, every person has the ability to become something in the music scene, but that is also the negative
Where there's
side.
a will, there's a way. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. Where there's a will, there's a way. And it's still a case of the squeaky wheel often gets the grease. So if you're willing to get out there and kick on the door, don't just knock on it, you got to kick it in. It's an industry that you have got to want to be in, because if you're sitting back waiting for it to come to you, it's not going to. But there is an avenue for every type of music still, but there isn't the support for every genre. There's certain sounds, like I said, that they get promoted better, or they get more opportunity, and I feel like they're the less creative types. That's going to offend a few people.
Controversial. I love it. I love it. No, I think you have to be able to speak, what you think, and I know you're pretty passionate about this, and
I love it, especially songwriting. That's my thing. I think songs have to come first, and I hear people say that all the time, but they don't mean it. And the fact that the song, when you look at things like festivals these days, you want to go and play at a festival, first thing they do is look at your numbers on social media. So, well, have you listened to the music? Have you seen a live performance? Have you done any research other than go, oh, Spotify numbers are below where they should be? Let's move on to the next person who's getting playlist at it. And that's where it's like, this is back to front. This is upside down.
Because they care about ticket sales over quality music?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yep. And I'm seeing a real correlation, or a lack of correlation, between ticket sales and numbers on social media and playlisting. They don't, I think on the old school Facebook sort of model, it did, because if you had people like and follow you, you had a place to sell your stuff now. But now there's certain things that play behind the scenes there, algorithms and all this that keep coming up, where they don't show your stuff to all the people that follow you. It's all about interaction. They expect you to interact with absolutely everyone. It's impossible.
You've got to pay for that privilege.
Totally. It's all monetary. Yeah. Monetary? Monetary.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I think that shows though in your music. Like if people haven't heard your music, they should definitely go check it out. Brad Butcher, you can listen to him everywhere, and you've been doing this for a long time. And I think the core element for me, as I've seen, your progression in your career, is there's a really strong story element to the songs that you're writing, and there's thought, and it's pretty real and raw, and it's real life, and it's relatable, and it's all that stuff. It's not this hoppy boppy,
My thing is honesty. I have a hard time not being honest, and if I'm not honest with you or the listener, then I'm not honest with myself. And I also have a hard time singing something that I don't believe, or some people can sit down and write a song that's completely fictional and get out there and do their thing and sing it well and believable. Great. I just can't. I need to get up there and have this, because the emotion of what I'm connecting with is the thing that's the powerful part of it for me. And then that conveyance. I mean, I've broken down mid-song crying at certain gigs in the past over songs written for my grandfather after he passed away, and, just a ton of different things, because everything I write about is either an experience or something I've witnessed to a friend, or happened to a friend, or it's all about being in that place, where whatever it is, that moment, and that's what takes me back there. And that's what I love about a song, because I hear that in other people's songs, that I'm taken to this place. And, oh my God, I get it. And that's what I'm in it for. That's why it's that real connection. And Australian country music has that, I think. I think more so than a lot of other genres. Folk music does it too. And I'm drawn to that for that reason. And then the storytelling, well, I think that just comes with growing up listening to, like I said, Cat Stevens, James Taylor, artists of the 60s and 70s, the Beatles, who it was just creative. They were just loving what they were doing. And I do my best to hold on to that. I love that.
Well, it shows. It shows, I think, in your writing and in your music.
Thank you.
So, yeah, really good on you for staying strong on what you believe and not being a sellout. Good on you for not being a sellout.
I don't know how to. I would not know how to sell out.
I think I've been thinking about what does success mean? Does success, I mean, in life and as a musician, and like, does success look like writing music you want to write and getting paid to do it if you're lucky?
In the last few years, I've had to revisit this myself, truly, because you need to set, like, you're always setting goals. You're always setting, you read these things where they tell you, if your dream isn't a bit too big and scary, then it's not big enough. And you go, well, that's great. But at some point you have to be realistic about where you're going. And so I've had to adjust my what's the term? My expectations of success and what they are and what they mean to me. And now having kids really made that easier. They came along and it's like, oh man, that's actually the reason we're on this planet.
Forced to change.
Yeah. Well, not in a negative way though, in the best way,
Sure.
They came along and I went, oh, this is the meaning of life. This is the real thing, I'd been through I went through a rough divorce. Well, it was rough on me. And thankfully it didn't last too long, because about 2 months after that happened, I met Katie, and she was just this ray of sunshine with it. And I even had a conversation with my mum at that time and said, look, I'm probably not supposed to be feeling this right now, because last week I was in a dark place and I met this woman who's the most incredible person I've ever met. And all of a sudden I think I'm in love again. Is that even possible? What the hell? It was a mixed up time. And Mum said to me, because she met Dad and they were engaged 4 months after they met, and that was their story. And she said, look, trust me from experience. When you know, you know. And I just went, this is so strange and amazing. And so I went with it. And, that was in April of 2019, and we were married December 1st, 2020. Our first daughter, Lane, or my first, I've got 2 older stepdaughters, was born on the 30th of July before we got married. So we didn't muck around. And that happening was such a pivotal, unexpected shift in my life that put me on the right track. And I truly believe that when you're on the right track, everything happens in a positive way, because you're both thinking positively and you're both working together. And it wasn't happening prior to that moment, meeting her. And ever since then, so it's only 2023 now. We've only known each other a bit over 4 years, and we've got 2 businesses, 2 daughters now, 4 kids all up. My stepdaughters, they teach me about life every day. It can be tricky at times, but they're really good kids, and they make me they all bring an element to make me a better person and more motivated. And so while I've kind of forgotten exactly where I was going with all this, I just know that all that coming into my life is what has given me like a breath of fresh air and a whole new rebirth of excitement for life and what's coming.
I honestly feel like for me, the day my first daughter was born was the day my life began. Like that's how I portray it to people. There's like little, because I was 21 when I got married, and then the following year would have been we had our first daughter. bit over 2 years. A bit over 2 years we were married, and then when she was born. So, what was I saying? Everything else before then, there was like a little season of like school, like childhood school, finished school, and had a couple of, 3 to 5 years of just sort of like, mucking around, trying different things and whatever. But for me, all the meaning for my life and the memories as I have them almost start on that day.
Yeah.
That's how I feel like this season, whatever it is like that I'm in now. And like you said, is the, like, there is nothing that has brought the joy.
Yeah.
And not the pain, but the refining and maturity and you have to succumb.
That comes with the pain.
You have to succumb to that though. You do.
Yeah.
But it's so special. And I mean, what else is there?
Nothing compares to it.
You can make all the money in the world or have all the success in the world. And again, I end up saying so many cliche things in some of these conversations, but when you realize it, it's the truth. And I'll tell you, you don't find many nursing homes full of people who wish they had less kids. Let me tell you that.
Very true.
Probably wish they had a couple more.
Yeah.
Because there's people out there lonely, and suffering, and it's the people around us that make the difference.
That's well said.
It's so special hearing you talk about it, man. It's clearly how's it impacted your music?
Well, it's given me some brand new stuff to talk about, to write about. I mean, this new album is although I never write the songs, sometimes I do, but rarely, not in a literal sense. It's always metaphorically speaking about a subject. But this whole album is built around this region. There's a song called Ain't Love Grand, and it's a wild story, but it's loosely based on our meeting on Keppel Island. There's a song called Like the World Is Ending, which is written about the first time a mother holds her baby. And it's, she's going to love you every day like the world is ending, because it's such an intense love. You just imagine that, though. The whole idea behind that song was, imagine if the world was ending and you had your baby there and you knew this is the last day you're ever going to hold them.
Wow.
That's an intense hold, isn't it? So that song is a really special one to me, because the first time I saw that in the hospital, it was like, whoa. And all I could say was, you did it. I just kept on saying, you did it.
Yeah.
You made a baby. Holy dooly, I'm a dad. You did it. And she did that for me. You went through all that for me and for this baby and us. Like, I almost get teary thinking about that. So there's this whole album is all about, the whole thing's inspired by them, Look What You've Done to Me is another song on there. In the best way.
Could go either way.
It could, but in the best way. When lyrically you hear it in there and you go, okay, that's a positive message. And there's a ton of them. There's 11 songs in there and it's just completely filled with love and gratitude and admiration for being here and meeting her and having these kids and this life that we now have and everything that we're working on and working towards. It's the whole thing. It's all positive. And I love positivity, because I think, especially as a songwriter, everybody starts out writing songs and they're always sad. You're always writing sad, emotional songs just to bear and, whatever you've been through. And especially if you're writing them as a kid where you're going through teenage angst and all that, and maybe mum and dad separated, who knows? There's certain things that it happens. And so I find the majority of songs from people in the beginning are emotionally sad, downbeat, getting this off your chest. So I got to a point when being in the country world where it's like, well, every bloody song is a heartbreak, or some girls, you got some young girl who's 16 and she's writing about heartbreak, and it's like, you're 16. Come on. The
joke's always, if you listen to a country song backwards, it's a man getting his truck and getting his girl and getting his dog and getting
the horse comes back.
The horse comes back.
Yeah. Well, so I just thought, okay, from this point forward, and it was actually coming into I was writing for my second album when I started this way, but I think I really got a better handle on it with my third album. And but it's just putting a positive spin, a positive message on the end of a song. So you can have a story and it can go left, right, center, wherever you want to take it, but finish it on a positive note, so that the listener, it's they're experiencing this with you. They're left with a smile on their face, or they're left with a man. I feel good. It doesn't have to be a dance banger, but just fill it with love, fill it with positivity, happiness, joy. Tell a story of this guy he broke his heart, but then finish it with, but that taught him to be a better person, and now he's got this. It's not. I think leaving people, admittedly, sometimes the best parts of people's gigs are when a song affects you so much you're sobbing, you're sitting in your chair, tears streaming down your face. I think they're just as important as the happy parts of a gig, as the on your feet, high-fiving the guy next to you, slapping back, going, how good is this? Best gig ever. You've got to have those highs and lows. But you really only need one song on the album. That's the sad song. All the rest can be positive.
I love that. I love the positivity. And I guess that's, again, just part of who you are as well. You're an upbeat guy who has, who sees the world in a certain way. And I think that rubs off on people when you hear it in the music. I want to go back to something that you said about, seeing, like, having a family and that sort of thing. One of the things that I find myself, we've got a little girl, she's nearly 2. Sometimes she'll wake up in the middle of the night in a cot, water bottle's empty, or, maybe she's just stirred and working, and dad, she calls out. I go in there and I have these flashes of, like, I'm there, like, tucking her back in, putting her blanket back on her, and I'm like, my dad did this for me.
You can remember that?
I can. It's like I'm looking at my little girl, but it's me.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then I'm thinking that I'm my dad, and it's just, and
Full
it just
circle.
gives you that appreciation.
Yeah.
Because I know, without the memory, I don't have the memory, but I know that he did that for me.
Yeah.
And I know he worked hard to provide for us, and I know, seeing what my wife goes through in childbirth and in raising, what my mum went through for me. And it just gives you this perspective that's just like, wow, this is radical. It's so wild, and it's so, I definitely disrespected my parents and didn't love them and honor them the way I should have. And I feel like that's what you do from 16 to 24. And then you realize what life's actually like, and you go, hang on. As they did
there's actually, I haven't read it, but my mother-in-law reads a lot of books on this stuff. I think she studied psychology. I think she finished the degree. But talking to her and to Katie, they're just intelligent women, and they understand, that there's a whole process that kids go through, especially teenage girls. I've been told when they hit a certain age, there is actually a belief. I don't know how it happens, but they believe that their mother does not have a clue what she's talking about. No idea. So they go, and then, like you said, they come full circle where they come back around and they're like, oh, maybe you did know. I remember Mum used to say to me, I didn't come down the last shower, Standard old term. But you'd be like, what would you know, Mum? How the hell would you know? I'm the one who's a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid here. What the hell would you know? You're old. Probably what was she then? 32. I mean, you're so old. And I can see it happening right now with my stepkids. Our eldest one she's almost 14 in December. And, there's a lot of stuff going on, dealing with high school and the stress of getting good grades or trying to get good grades, and then the friendship circles and all that stuff that goes on at school that we're both well aware of. School was not good for me. But then you come home and Mum's the punching bag because she's the safe zone, and they know they can unload everything there. And, it's a difficult position for everyone, for the kids, for us as adults, seeing that, but also, like you said, when you come around and you realize, oh, I did this to my parents. I actually called Mum a little while ago, and I thanked her.
Wow. And
I said, when Lane was she's just coming at the end of it now. Holiday, our youngest, is just going into it, the terrible twos. And I called Mum because Lane was, God, she was a handful. Holy dooly. And nothing I could do is good enough. It's Mummy do it. No, Mummy do it. So I'd get shoved to the side and I felt useless. And then I called Mum and said, hey, thanks. I know you raised 3 of us,
Yeah.
I'm in the war zone right now, and you went through this, and thanks for what you did.
So precious. that is like so sweet for you to call your mum and say that. She would have appreciated it.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Did she cry?
No, dad's the crier.
That's where you get it from.
Yeah, definitely. No, yeah, mum's she's the salt of the earth. She's great, you know. So she definitely appreciated that, but she also doesn't need it. She doesn't need to hear it, you know. I think she knows in certain other ways that it's felt. And you know, I'm the only one in the family too that moved away. I live obviously in Rockhampton. The rest of my family's in Mackay. Probably should have mentioned that back at the beginning. We spent 25 years growing up in Mackay after Townsville. That's where all my extended family was. We came back after Townsville to there, but I moved away pursuing music in 2012, moved down to Brisbane, and I haven't moved back. You know, I was heading north back in 2019, and then I got as far north as Rockhampton, and I think I'm going to be here a while yet.
Well, Yeppoon being the crown jewel of Central Queensland.
Well, that did right, and that's where I was living at the time. But with the stepkids and that kind of thing and their schooling, so I was like, okay, we'll live in Rockhampton. Katie's business that she runs now as a podiatrist is based in Yeppoon. So our big long-term plan is to live in Yeppoon. But that might be a little while off while the kids get their education and do a bit of growing up.
So fun. And it's such a great place to live and raise kids. I think.
Beautiful area.
Yeah, pretty biased, but.
No, it's a beautiful area, and there's so much opportunity here, especially for me being in the music industry, coming back here from Brisbane and just meeting people at Livingston Shire Council and here in Rockhampton Council. It's just they want to support you, and I think I have to take my hat off to Tom and Jeremy. I feel like they trained everybody. You know, they showed people, hey, you can succeed out of here if you want to rally the troops and get behind us and give us, because it happens. You can't do it on your own. It does take an army, you know. And if you don't have local support to build that grounding and that platform to begin with, then you're never going to get anywhere. So I feel like the councils are really supportive. The people in town here, they love the arts and they love getting out there and supporting, like I said. And I think, I think that's ingrained in the town. And it's not just me. There's artists of all types. The museum just opened up a year or two ago, and there's a ton of opportunity here, and festivals and songwriting retreats now, and you know, all sorts of stuff. So
you've got one of those coming up. Do you want to give it a plug?
Yeah, well, myself and Kate Leahy started a songwriting retreat a couple of years ago, and this is its third year running now. The second year that we've held it at Salty Lime Co. in Emu Park, and that's run on the 14th to the 17th of September. And we've got some great mentors. Jen Myers is travelling she lives on the Sunshine Coast, is coming up. She studied at Berkeley College in the States. She's lectured at like JMC Academy down south, University of South East Queensland, and she's she's an amazing singer. She's sung on stage with like Michael Bublé, and you know, she's got an incredible history in music, and she's also just a stunning person, just a great human being, and with all this knowledge and ready to share. So we've got her, and I met a guy named Rob Imerson a couple of years ago, who's from New South Wales, and he's a school teacher, a really nice guy. He's released a few EPs and albums, and he's just a really passionate songwriter. And his approach to it all is so relaxed and so calming that it's like you just want to be around him. He's such a good person. So we're having him mentor this year as well. And we've got a couple other special guests that we haven't released yet coming along. But it's last year being the first year at the Salty Lime Co. It was just such a great experience. And we've got so many people already bought their tickets coming back again that were in that group. And we're just doing our best to spread the word and hopefully get a few more new faces and names to join us.
So cool. So cool. Is that a rewarding process? Like mentoring young musicians or like people who are mature as well, like
of any ages, of any musical ability. It's just about exploring those who want to search the depths of their souls and see what they can come up with. That's what it's all about. And like I said before too, it's the music industry to me will always be about the song. Forget about social media, forget about radio, and forget about everything else. It's all about a song, writing it, recording it, and performing it with a band to an audience that go, oh, wow, and getting it. If you can get that connection at the end where they enjoy the song, the whole process worked. And that to me, and I remind myself almost on a daily basis that is what this is about. That's what I love, and because all the other stuff can drag you down a rabbit hole, and it can be a heartbreaking industry at times too. But once you find that pure love for it and love of songs, which is what I keep going back to, then that once you've got a hold of that and remember that, then that's what it's all about. Nothing else matters. And because at the end of the day, if you're going to have success in this industry, you have got to have good songs. You got to be able to sing them well and play them well. That's all that matters. If you don't have that, you can knock on all the doors and do all the schmoozing you want and, hobnobs everywhere and do all that stuff. But if you can't eventually have them go, wow, you did a good job on that song, then it's not going to work. You can make a lot of friends, and that's good, cool too. But I can guarantee you that there will be a ceiling that you will hit eventually. So that's the point of this whole songwriting retreat. It's to give people the elements and a starting platform for those who've never written a song maybe to understand how it comes to be. Then we also give them some industry advice on how it gets to radio, avenues to take to learn to do that. By all of us coming together then and we all share our own stories, then there's opportunities then to network and create songwriting duos or a community of people who want to share songs. Hey, what do you think of this? Oh, why don't you try this in the chorus? Why don't you try blah, blah, blah? And it's a conversation. All of a sudden we've got all these people who are like-minded individuals who if one of the other guys puts on a show, we're all going to go and support them. Then we've got, now we've got this cool thing going on where it's back and forth. That you leave your ego at the door. It's not about that. It's about the song. It's all about creating a song. And again, some of my greatest songwriting heroes and inspirations, I'll give you a handful of them. There's Guy Clark, Rodney Crowell, Steve Earle, Townes Van Zandt, and these guys, they all grew up as friends together in Nashville. And they would just write songs together, and there was a little competitiveness between them all. But if you read any of their things individually, they all say, but it wasn't a competition. We just wanted to do it right better because he did such a good job on that. Now I want to go back, and when we get together next time, go check out this song. And, from that group of people are some of the most iconic songs ever. Poncho and Lefty, for instance, Townes Van Zandt's song, and Steve Earle's covered it. Rodney Crowell's covered it. Guy Clark has too. Guy Clark's songs, I mean, I'm not even going to try and name one because he is such an incredibly iconic songwriter. It's hard to match what he can do. And all those guys would take songs to Guy and say, "What do you think of this?" And he'd say, "Why don't you try that?" He was also a bit older than them all too, but I see that idea as being this great community of people, and it's just inspiring others to try harder and to work hard and with this goal of just writing a good song. And beyond that, well, if you love it, it could go anywhere.
It's magical. I can tell I love how it's oozing from you, the passion about, the whole process and sharing that with others and obviously doing it because you're still, just out there writing songs and releasing them and making it happen. 15
years in, doing it professionally now, I guess you'd call it, or at least trying to make it my full-time job. It hasn't always been that way. It's been difficult, but if you don't love it, you're not going to last.
And you're studying music now too, you were talking about?
Yeah, I'm in the fourth term of a Bachelor of Music degree, just to give myself more of an arsenal when it comes to writing, when it comes to performing too. But I've never had consistent guitar lessons, so I'm loving that. Every week I have a guitar lesson with these guys they just know it inside out, and learning about chords and then options, chord options, subdominants, triads and just there's stuff that I've never even thought of. But then say, you want to play a C chord here. Well, there's a thing called the cage system. You can play a C in a G shape, an A shape, an E shape, a D shape. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's C, there. The whole neck opens up. Then you look at modes, it's all these different scales and then how they relate to different chords and then flats and sharps and all this stuff. So then all of a sudden I'm sitting on the piano now and I'm playing piano and understanding it because it's so easy on the piano. It's laid out flat. Once you understand those 7 keys there or those 11 keys, and it's like, okay, then it repeats just in a different
octave.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes total sense now, and that's why I was always told that when you write songs on piano, you'll have so many more options. And I didn't realize that because I didn't understand how it worked. Now I do. It's like far out. I love that. I've got a year and a bit left on that degree, and I'm building a studio at home with the plan of recording my own albums from there in the future. I'm loving doing because production is part of the degree as well. So learning to use all the software and that is just, man, that's the best. I love it. So it's you write it, you record it, understanding how to record it and using that software, and then on to the next thing. And also in the music industry, it's so hard. It's a great way to make a living, terrible way to make money. It's the best saying I heard. And so you have to be able to put on several different caps. You've got to be a manager at times. You've got to be a booking agent at times. You've got to be a guitarist, a songwriter. You need to be a journalist, write your own bios. So many different aspects. So having and a graphic designer too is a very important one. So having a handle, or at least a little bit of a grasp on all those things, is pretty vital these days, especially as an independent artist. Unless you're lucky enough to be picked up by a major label, different story. I don't have that luxury. So all these little elements that I'm trying to get better at now are just to keep me in the game, open up other avenues of income so I can survive, mouths to feed these days, a family to look after. And I'd probably encourage anyone who's listening to this, who's thinking about, any young guys going, I really love my music and I want to get into it. I'd say, great. Do your homework, write a bunch of songs before you even think about recording anything, and then get a little network of friends who you can send those songs to, who'll give you honest feedback. And from that point, have fun.
For work on the music theory, obviously you're saying there's value in that, whether it's, doing grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of piano through to potentially like actually studying a bachelor level degree. I think from my experience, I've only done like grade 1 piano, and I'm very limited in my musical capabilities on guitar because it's like there's just a ceiling that you get to. But I feel like, I wish I did more. I'd definitely be encouraging my kids to do, a couple of grades at least of piano, and to get more music theory into it maybe.
Yeah, I just think having instruments and things laying around the house is great for kids, because it's one of those things that you don't want to force your kids to do anything. They've got to want to do it. So we just want to casually have all these instruments laying around the house and have them tinkering and asking questions. What's that, Dad? And how's that work? And I'll show you a little bit. And then if they ever come to me one day and say, hey, I want to learn how to do this, great, let's do it. I can show you what I know. And when you get to a point where you might say, no, I'm tired of this, no worries. Come back to it later if you want, or go and become a horticulturalist, whatever. It's your life. But I just think having those opportunities, because it's a real, I think it just uses a different part of the brain, and it really music connects with a person on a deeper level than just playing it. If you're not a calm person and you sit down at a piano, I think it clears your mind, or sit at an instrument, it clears your mind, and it has a calming effect. And if you try and play an instrument when you're not calm, you're going to play it pretty erratically. The song's going to be a bit quick. So I find before I perform, I find myself, it's not meditating, but it's just breathing. Everything has to slow down so that when I walk on stage, I know I can feel the tempo of the song and where it needs to be. When people look at me on stage, the last thing that they want to see is some guy up there squirming in his own skin, nervous as hell. So I have to look relaxed, even though I never am. And there's a real skill that I've learned to walking on stage and going, hey, how you going? It's nice to be here. I feel great. How are you? And you get that warm connection straight away. That's what music does. It just slows everything down, brings you back to the moment right now.
That's so cool. How much of that is learned versus like, I've seen videos of people online and it's amazing. They got like perfect pitch. So they can hear a noise, like they can hear, and then it's a C sharp.
Charlie Puth?
Yeah, Charlie Puth, or there's another guy I know, he's a Bruno Major. He's just like a indie acoustic style kind of guy. I think he's based in the UK, or coming to the UK. And it's so fascinating to me. But what I've found in my, again, very limited experience is I can actually hear in the music. I haven't fully learned the national numbering system yet, but I can, if I knew what key it was in, I could tell what chord it was.
Yep.
I can just, that's gone to the minor. Oh, that's gone to the alternate minor.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with my very limited knowledge, I can just and I'll talk to people and be like, oh yeah, you can just feel like if I'm playing with other people or something in a setting, you can just feel that that's going to shift and go there. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, oh, okay. Like there's something there, but is that, are you born that way? How much of that can you actually learn?
Oh, I think all of it's learnable. You know, I don't think anyone is. There probably are some freaks of nature who are born with the ability to hear something and go, hey, that's a C sharp. I'm not. I wasn't. But there's ear training. That's a part of the degree is ear training and understanding, hearing. I can hear two sounds now and go, oh, yeah, that's actually a perfect fifth, or that sounds like a minor seventh apart. And that just comes with training. And the way that they teach you that is to remember certain parts of songs. Twinkle, twinkle, perfect fifth, da-da-da-da. Songs that do that. And once you go, okay, I hear, they go, oh, that's two, da-da-da-da-da. And all of a sudden you can put it together. There's cheat sheets to it all.
Sure.
So that can all be taught and learnt.
But also perfect pitch, cool party trick. What do you use it for?
True.
You can't write a good song.
It's handy. Well, even there, you don't really need to know what, unless you can. If a song comes to you, I guess in a dream, and you wake up singing and go, oh, I need to go and play a C chord, and that goes to that, and you can work that out. But you can
work it out anyway.
You can work it out anyway. Yeah, pitch is great if you just want to hear a song and tell the guy on bass, hey, I heard that. No, we're in D. That helps.
We're riffing.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, I think it can all be learned. I think it's just a matter of how much you want it, and an instrument it's a life journey. It's a thing. That's why I think it's important to start young, which is why I was saying having things around the house and their interest just gently guided towards it in small ways is something I think is important for kids, for all kids, because it uses that, like I said, that certain part of the brain. I think that isn't tapped as often, but also the beauty of starting so young is you see a lot of the most successful people on earth. Tiger Woods is a good example. You start doing whatever it is that you're in love with, or maybe not in love with in Tiger's case, but you get an opportunity to learn something from a very young age. By the time you're a teenager, you're already so advanced at it compared to people who are starting, like I started this in studying at nearly 40 years old. So there's people that I'm playing music with now who are 19 and 20 in the same degree, and I'm blown away by their ability. I'm trying to learn that now. It's because they were raised either in churches, and you see that all the time, where guys who grow up in a church and play in the church band, they're so far advanced just because it's just what they do every weekend because they love it. The family goes there, and that's the thing. So that's a hell of an advantage there. But anyone that starts something at a young age, by the time they get to a teenage or early adult age, they're already ahead of their game. And that's why I would recommend just give kids options. See what they fall in love with. You never know what it's going to be. And having instruments laying around the house for us isn't so we can say you're going to be a muso, but they've got the chance to if they want to be.
I became partially musical because, or loved music because my mum and dad did. My mum wrote songs on the piano and dad was a drummer and.
Oh, cool.
And like, it just, and so we'd always have music on at home. And so, yeah, music's just a huge part of my life in that it brings life.
And that's why you're doing what you're doing, because this is your art. The visual art, the photography, the film stuff you do as well, the podcast stuff. That's why you're doing this, because of that upbringing. You just found your own creative path.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. It's such a cool process, such a cool journey. Just take us through the last couple of years in terms of, or at least like what you've been working on now. You're on tour recently. You mentioned Tom and Jeremy earlier, which is Busby Maru, who have come out of our region, super talented. You're good mates with them. You're on their Tiny Towns tour.
Yeah,
that looked like a heap of fun.
Oh yeah, it was a ball. Yeah. We had some sore kidneys or livers and all sorts of things at the end of that month. But no, I've known Tom and Jeremy for 20 years, and that's the reason I met Katie, is I came up to spend some time on the island with Jeremy.
At the Shell House?
Yeah, at the Shell House, yeah, and just hang out with those guys and all those guys, Margie and Zed, who used to own the Shell House, and there's a whole group of people that are all, and we're thick as thieves still, just good people. So it's because of them. I mean, just to tell you how much I love those people, Kurdo, who I was living with in Yeppoon when I first moved here, he's Lane's godfather. And Margie, who owns the Shell House, is Lane's godmother. So we wanted to do that also because it was that group of friends who brought us together, who brought us so much love and still do, and just how much we respect and admire them. So, but yeah, that whole group of people is why I am here where I am. And Tom and Jeremy still to this day continue to, be some of my best mates. And we've got a song coming out on August 18th. It's the first time we've actually done a collaboration, so that's on the new album as well. It's called People Get Old, would you believe? 2 weeks it one's out. Friday in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that. And they've just released an album too. They're flying, those boys. So I think this album they've just released too is I think their best. It's different, and a lot of people love their postcards from the Shell House album because of the nostalgia with where they come from and with family and friends in this area. But I think they've just made the most creative pop singer-songwriter record that I've heard in the last 10 years. I love it. I really love it. So I might be a little bit biased too, potentially, but we spent a month on the road and I got to hear them sing those songs every night back in June, and I think it's pretty special.
It's so cool. And they're a great example, like you said, of product of our region, and they've really honoured that. They come back and do hometown shows all the time and have paved a really good way for local musicians of all genres.
Yeah.
I feel like to...
Oh, let's not pump their tyres too much though. They're a pair of rat bags. They've basically... what they've done is just paved a way for any old nufty who can get up there with a guitar. I'm kidding.
They're a bunch of rascals. I didn't say they weren't rascals, but they have some fun. But
they're kicking goals there.
Yeah, I think it's really good. So when's the album coming out?
September 22nd. It's called East of Everything, which is this coastline. It's East of Everything for me too is the entire east coast of Australia, because like I said, the last 15 years it's been up and down from Tasmania to Port Douglas across to Darwin. The only state I haven't played in at the moment is WA, and I'm working on that. So East of Everything, it's this region. It's life here. It's the people. It's the sun. It's the ocean. It's the island. It's all that stuff, and it's gratitude about being here. And I'm lucky. I've actually got an album launch on Keppel Island on September 3rd on Father's Day. It's free, so if you want to come over for the day, it's between 12:30 and 1:30 at the Hideaway Resort. Thanks to Dennis and the good crew there who've been very supportive. And also thanks to Capricorn Enterprises who've got behind it as well. We've got a competition running right now, and there's probably 50 copies of the new album left on vinyl. There's only 100 in total, so they're half gone. And it's to give, if you buy one of those copies off there, it'll give you the chance to go in the draw to win a trip for two to Great Keppel Island for 2 nights to stay at the Hideaway, all taken care of, all the transfers and everything taken care of thanks to Capricorn Enterprise and Dennis and the team at Hideaway Great Keppel Island.
So cool.
And that's all through my website, bradbutcher.com.
Okay.
And
don't buy it anywhere else.
Don't you dare. You won't be able to.
You won't be able to.
It's impossible. I have the only copies.
Okay, good. But you've got singles coming out.
Yeah, we've
progressively.
We've been releasing songs off this album every 6 weeks all year. So it's the new method to the music industry now because of streaming. If I was to release an album, all those songs that are on that album, you can't release as singles after the album's out.
Oh, okay.
So now we're just we put nearly the entire album out as singles to give them a chance at life, and then the album comes out September 22nd. So the last single that will come out with the album is called Like the World Is Ending, the song I mentioned earlier. And I did that because it's a special song to me, and it's not the kind of song that you would traditionally release as a single, but I wanted to give it a chance to let people hear it. And August 18, the duet with Tom and Jeremy comes out. The song's called People Get Old. And I can't wait for you to hear that one.
I'm excited. Well, we've had the fortunate opportunity to work together as well over the years on some productions for music videos and other things, and just seeing you work and seeing you refine your craft, still studying, doing this. It's just so awesome to see you on this journey and where we're at behind you.
Well, mate, we appreciate the good stuff you do for us too. So thank you.
Thanks for coming on for the chat too. I really appreciate you sharing your story. And man, it's there's so much I want to. I love the strong perspectives on some things, and I think there's plenty more to tap in there. So we'll have to have you back and have some more controversial discussions.
Sounds good.
Thanks.